Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
That wasn't for you. FCTV. Good evening, everyone. This is the April 2nd Board of Selectmen's meeting. We're starting an open session to announce executive session under General Laws Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss resolution of all turbine litigation. Under General Laws Section 38, Chapter 38, Section 21A6, with respect to the status update on the potential purchase of the Liberty Green project site. And under General Laws Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to vote or approve the collective bargaining agreement with the police lieutenants. And as chair, I state that to not go into executive session would prejudice the town's options and rights with respect to these, all of these issues. And I also will state that after executive session, we will return to open session.
Second.
So, thank you. By roll call?
Brown aye.
Moran, aye.
Jones, aye.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting for April 2nd, 2018. The board is back from executive session and is now again in open session. The first thing I want to do is the Pledge of Allegiance, so please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have proclamation for Arbor Day. Takers?
Want me to read it? Oh,
Please.
sure. Proclamation. Whereas the town of Falmouth benefits from the graceful canopy of tree limbs that shade us from the blazing summer sun, purify our air of contaminants, provide a peaceful respite from the ordinary world, and generally beautify our community. And whereas the town has been recognized by a national program and is known far and wide as, quote, Tree City, and whereas the Falmouth Tree Warden, Falmouth Garden Club, Falmouth Public Schools, and Falmouth Beautification Council recognizes the aesthetic value of the beautiful trees of Falmouth by organizing a day to celebrate the purity and strength exemplified by a statuesque tree and all living green things, and thereby honor the trees of Falmouth by singing songs, sharing thoughts, and teaching more about the values of our trees. And now, therefore, we, Susan L. Moran, Megan English Braga, Doug Jones, Samuel H. Patterson, and Douglas C. Brown, as selectmen of the town of Falmouth, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 27th, 2018, as Arbor Day.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
just note that we have our town arborist with us, Jeremiah Pearson, so we appreciate Jeremiah hitting the ground running. Perhaps he has a comment or two on the Arbor Day
That would be
activities.
great. Thank you.
Good evening, Jeremiah Pearson, Park Superintendent. This year we'll be hosting Arbor Day at North Falmouth School, and with the help of Paul Sellers from Eversource and Dave Salter from Hamilton Tree, we will be pruning and planting several trees on the school grounds and promoting Arbor Day and trees.
What time would that be?
I'm not exactly sure just yet. We're still ironing out some kinks.
And it's wonderful that Eversource is participating.
Yes.
That's, you know, I really noticed little by little our relationship is really benefiting Falmouth, and Eversource is really participating. It's really good to hear. Great, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Great. Next, we have on the agenda proclamation with respect to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce Citizen of the Year, Carl F. Cavosa. Who would like to do the reading?
I'll take
Doug,
that.
please.
Whereas the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce annually acknowledges and pays tribute to a citizen of the town of Falmouth who has made a lasting positive impact on the community through participation in a broad scope of activities, and whose commitment to the town has been demonstrated by many years of service beyond his or her profession. And whereas Carl F. Cavosa Jr. has been an outstanding citizen and well known to all for his tireless and widespread accomplishments and contributions to the betterment of society. And whereas Carl F. Cavosa Jr., in working with local government over the years to promote a high quality of life in the town of Falmouth, by unselfishly donating corporate services, manpower, and other resources to the town of Falmouth to remove unwanted floating structure from the North Falmouth shoreline, and demolishing the harbor band shell to render the site ready for a new and improved structure. Working with VIPS educators to promote and sponsor No Guff, to create a positive atmosphere in the Falmouth school system, and working with the Falmouth Education Foundation to promote education excellence and supportive innovative programs outside the school budget. And whereas Carl F. Cavosa, being determined to assist our youth in developing the qualities of citizenship, discipline, teamwork, and physical well-being over time, contributed in meaningful and important ways to promote childhood recreation in the town of Falmouth by building and renovating playing fields and actively supporting Falmouth Little League and Lawrence School athletics. And whereas Carl F. Cavosa Jr., serving on the boards of directors of the Falmouth Road Race, works to make the event a source of community pride and advance civic philanthropy, leading the board of directors of the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce, its ongoing efforts to advance the interests of business, tourism, and employment opportunities for all. And whereas Carl F. Cavosa Jr.'s many other accomplishments and contributions, singularly and collectively, are memorialized in the minds of those he has touched and chronicled on the pages of organizations across this town, as he continues to make a difference in the town of Falmouth.
We do herein infer that this gentleman is worthy of high praise and great recognition. And now, therefore, we, Susan L. Moran, Megan English Braga, Doug Jones, Samuel H. Patterson, and Douglas C. Brown, as selectmen of the town of Falmouth, by the authority vested in us, do proclaim Carl F. Cavosa Jr., Falmouth's 2018 Citizen of the Year. I so move.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Terrific. Congratulations, Carl. And next we have on the agenda, recognition, Ms. Braga.
So I just wanted to recognize that this month in Falmouth is a really exciting month. It is the Falmouth Reads Together month, and there are so many activities going on. There's something this week and almost every week for the entire month of April. They had an event earlier this past weekend. And it's, if people aren't familiar with it, a book is chosen. It's a book that, you know, is put out there for folks to read as a community, come together for discussions and various events, events around poetry and art connected to sort of the themes in that book. And this year, Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me was the book that was chosen. So the events are going to be focused on, you know, around issues of race, racial bias, what it means, you know, what race means in our community, in our country. And so I hope folks will check out on the library website the events that are going on. It's something that's put on, takes a lot of work, an enormous amount of work from folks here in the community to put it together. It's a great opportunity to you know, meet other people that you haven't met, connect around literature, connect around issues. So it's really something that is one of those special events that we have here in our community. So
Martin Luther King Day coming up. That's another great connection.
yes.
Great.
That's good stuff.
Thanks for that. Next, I want to start with announcements and ask the town manager. I know it came to my attention, a lot of folks were interested after the major storms, status of the beach, for example. And Mr. Suso, you responded to that right away.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we're pleased to give a brief report and update on the storm damage to fundamentally to the certain Falmouth beaches, and we're pleased to have our acting beach superintendent, Bruce McGardo, with us. So I think it would be most prudent for me to have Bruce present that report.
Well, thank you for asking.
Thanks for
It's
coming.
one of my favorite topics. To give you a brief overview, whenever there's a storm, I do a post-storm assessment so I know where we are hurting the most. I work very closely with Concom and with the DPW Highway to mitigate our stand losses. We had the good fortune of getting 1,000 yards given to the town from the Rance Canal project last month. I met with Jennifer McKay last Thursday to assess the granulation, size, and color of that sand to make sure it was deemed suitable to do nourishment. And with a little bit of cleaning up of that, some of the shells in that material, we're going to be able to put some sand at Surf Drive. We currently now have the county dredge down at Minot doing the entrance to Eel Pond. That sand's going to go on the western end of the east side of Minot, because we'll get the longest life out of that, because the drift, inshore drift for sand goes from west to east on that side. So we'll get some life out of that. Because of the timeliness now in April, we've got a real good chance of having that stay in place for the summer season. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to working with the highway department to truck some sand and get it pushed out and make sure that the resource is ready to go for the summer season. On the flip side, we are also going to be taking over the responsibility of sticker sales beginning May 2nd at the Marks Building. We'll be moving to the Surf Drive Bathhouse Memorial Day weekend, and we'll set up there and sell for the summer. So we're rolling. It's in the off-season, but it's never the off-season for beaches.
How are you publicizing the Marks Building being the site for sale?
We will do that here at Town Hall, and we will do that in the newspapers.
Terrific. And town website, I'm sure we can
Yes.
pick up on that.
I'll put a
as
notify
well.
me out, and we can also do anything else that gets the word out.
Great. Well, much appreciated, and thanks for coming in part to give this report.
Well, thank you for asking.
Thank you, Bruce.
Great. Any other announcements?
Yes, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I think we wanted to announce the approval of the lieutenant's collective bargaining agreement.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Mr. Johnson-Staub, I'll let you take over, but on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, we do have an important announcement with respect to, as the town manager said, an agreement with the Lieutenant Union for Police Department. Please.
Sure, just very briefly, the town was successful in negotiating a collective bargaining agreement. This is a renewal of the union contract that begins fiscal year 2018 and runs through the end of fiscal year 2020. And we will have the full collective bargaining agreement contract before the board for approval at a future meeting.
Great. And is it proper to announce one of the important items, for example?
We certainly can at your discretion.
So I particularly thought it was interesting that one of the new points that folks may not have heard about yet is that the town may implement vehicle dashboard camera. So that's something new to see, and we appreciate that. That's being called for, all over the country, little by little, so we're stepping into that as well. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Sure thing. I just want to add on to that point, just for clarification for the wider audience, that is for the police lieutenants that we have that agreement, the police lieutenants only.
Exactly.
I have two quick
Please.
announcements, if I could. One, this April 4th, so this week, at the museums on the Green, there is going to be an exhibit, or a talk, excuse me, by Miguel Muniz, who is someone who is from Falmouth, grew up here, graduated from Falmouth High School, but he's a pretty well-known professor of Portuguese history. He teaches at the University in Lisbon, has lived in Lisbon for probably over 20 years now, and he'll be back here, and he'll be giving a free talk about the impact of Portuguese immigration here in our town and in the broader area. So it's free. It starts at 7 o'clock. Right down the road, and a great opportunity to hear from someone right here from our own community who has really made his impact in the field of Portuguese history. And then the other piece is just not about an event, but as we're approaching town meeting, everybody gets a lot of their information from social media and from Facebook, and I've just noticed, and it's wonderful because it means there's an increased interest, but there's been a lot of posting about some of the articles and issues that are going to come before town meeting. Again, I think it's wonderful that discussion is promoted by that forum, but I really caution, and I hope folks, particularly who are town meeting members, will make sure before they post or repost that they take a look at what's being posted. There's been some really, it's not even a difference of opinion, but absolutely erroneous information that's been out there about some of the articles. And unfortunately what happens is, there are some individuals who are town meeting members or who come to town meeting, and people put a lot of weight in what they post. And so I've received questions, about articles that folks are getting really the wrong information about what an article is about and why it's there.
So if it's on the internet, it's not necessarily right?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So I just hope that folks take, especially if you're a town meeting member or someone who goes a lot, or, really an active member of our community, just, vet things a little bit before you put it out there, because it just causes some general confusion. And the last thing we want going into town meeting is more confusion. So hopefully folks will do that.
Absolutely, and town meeting members do their homework, and they will tell, anybody who asks them, they'll either have the answer or they will get the answer. Anybody else?
Just to remind the audience that on Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday, it's Liberty Green Housing Appeals Corporation will be beginning to do a site review at the Liberty Green proposed site at 9:30, and then there'll actually be a hearing at the Herman Meeting Room, the library, at 10 o'clock. The only people speaking will be those people who are called as witnesses. And so speakers will already know they're going to be speaking, but if people are interested in listening and following that process, that will be this Wednesday, 9:30, and then 10 o'clock.
Very important. Thank you. Next, we have on the agenda public comment. It's an opportunity for anyone in the audience who wants to speak about an item that is not already on the agenda. There are 2 minutes for that if there's anyone here who would like to speak. Seeing none, we will move on. We next have a vote to affirm the appointment of the Fleet Services Manager, James Reynolds. Mr. Suso.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As you've noted, I'm very pleased to bring the appointment of James Reynolds as the Town Fleet Services Manager to the board for your consideration and concurrence. Mr. Reynolds is here this evening along with Public Works Director Ray Jack and several of our colleagues in Public Works. Mr. Reynolds is the best qualified applicant from a number of candidates who've applied for this important position. He has an associate's degree in applied science, diesel technology with Blue Hills Technical Institute in Canton, Massachusetts, and he has most recently served as the fleet maintenance team leader of fleet services for the city of Hampton, Virginia. That's since 2010. Jim is expected to begin his position on or about April 9th. And again, we're pleased to have him with us. Ray, I don't know if you care to make a few comments. Jim certainly is welcome to do that. Also, Madam Chair, if that's appropriate and in order.
Please introduce.
Thank you. Good evening. As you know, it's been a long search. There's been an evolutionary process in vehicle maintenance over the last 2 decades where it's been evolving dramatically. In the old days, you had the proverbial mechanic that would fix something that was mechanically wrong with a vehicle. So when you took a car in, it was a carburetor problem, a starter problem, a fuel pump, timing chain, something like that. Today, you put your car in, it's going to cost you 10 times as much, and it's going to be a sensor, or it's going to be some other electrical condition and or computerized system that's going to be problematic. So from the proverbial mechanic, we really evolved into the technical aspect of it. So what we're looking for now are vehicle service technicians. Mr. Reynolds has a very strong background in that area, and that's going to make him a very valuable member to the team. He'll be able to keep our fleet up to date with respect to the newest technology on the vehicles. His heavy-duty service background extends to a fleet of over 800 vehicles and equipment, as well as service on fire apparatus and other heavy equipment, so there's no question that he would be well-suited for the position. So I just want to thank you and take the opportunity to welcome Mr. Reynolds as a member of our team. And as I understand it, he is going to be locating to Falmouth as well. So he currently resides in Canton. So thank you.
Great. If you could come up to be welcomed, that would be great. Happy to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be chosen to fill the first ever fleet manager's position for the town of Falmouth. I've been a resident of Massachusetts most of my life, except for a short 8-year period in Virginia, and just came back to Massachusetts last year and plan on not leaving again. So it's been a long process, but I'm very, very, very happy to be chosen for it. And just today signed a purchase and sales agreement on a piece of property on a home in in Falmouth. So it shows my commitment to the job and the community. And I look forward to meeting everybody, not just Ray and Peter, but everybody in the town that makes this area so special.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a terrific match. Your expertise and really, helping, part of the Selectmen's strategic plan has a lot to do with efficiencies and modernization, and, your background is certainly a key piece of that. And the fact that you're so welcoming and friendly yourself and excited to be part of the town, that's really, I congratulate Ray and Julian for making a good pick there. Very welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll
Madam
move.
Chair, I think you need to vote.
Please. Sorry.
I
What
move
did
to
we do?
affirm the
Oh,
appointment
that would
of-
help.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate that. That was just a test. Okay, moving to summary of actions. First one under licenses, to approve an application for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license, Food Truck Festivals of America at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds, Saturday, August 8th, 2018.
August 11th.
August 11th. Boy, I am needing help tonight.
Move approval.
Thank
Second.
you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have on the agenda to approve an application for a special one-day wine and malt liquor license for Gray Matter Marketing Craft Beer Festival at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds, Saturday, October 13, 2018.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And next, we have to approve an application for a one-day entertainment license, beach concert fundraiser for Recovery Without Walls at Old Silver Beach on Wednesday, July 25th for 2018.
Move approval?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And can I just, as a
Please.
reminder, Lieutenant Doyle just noted that in all of these, he didn't have any issues with them, but that he highly encourages the organizers to get in touch with the detail, the police department regarding details, because those obviously fill up pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
And I could just share that I attended the events committee with this, as having attended a few of these concerts over in Centerville, which is a similar arrangement, and it's a fundraiser there too. And the police captain Reed was there, and he explained all the things, and Mr. Hall agreed to all those. And he's here if you want to hear anything from him.
There's someone here for from which one?
Mr. Hall.
Oh, Mr. Hall, do you want to just come up and explain the event a little bit?
Sure.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Hey, I'm Bucky Hall, my wife and kids, and we've all lived in North Falmouth for over 30 years. I've been the golf course superintendent at Falmouth Country Club for over 30 years, and I've been a musician since I could bang on a piano. For the last 10 years, we have played in the month of August at Craigville Beach, raising money. It's a 2-hour event, and it has always gone over very, very well. It's a spectacular thing, and I've always wanted to do it in Falmouth. Had some talks with Bruce, and really wanted to do it at Old Silver for the aesthetic value that there is there, and I think that raising money for Recovery Without Walls goes without saying. I mean, it's something that, it's a great thing for this town. And so I so appreciate having this done. I'm a little hesitant to say this after the Facebook stuff, but I did say on Facebook about 4 months ago or 3 months ago that I wanted to do this. And between two sites, I had over 500 people say, this is a fantastic idea, with many saying they want to help. So, and I've got a list of those people because they are going to help, because we're going to leave Bruce's prime beach in the same condition it was when we found it.
Spectacular.
So,
great.
that's
Thanks for coming, and good luck with the event.
Excuse me?
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, we have under administrative orders to authorize the negotiating team for discussions on a potential intermunicipal agreement for Wacoit Bay. Mr. Suso?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had received a communication from Water Quality Management Committee Chair Eric Turkington recommending that this process be authorized to begin with the voted approval of the Board of Selectmen. It would involve, as you've noted, the pursuit of an intermunicipal agreement for Wacoit Bay for managing water quality issues there, and be modeled after a similar approach taken in the towns of Sandwich, Mashpee, and Barnstable. And as I recall, the suggestion was, if the board is so agreeable, to designate a member of the Board of Selectmen to be part of that, a town manager or his designee, as well as a member of the Water Quality Management Committee, if that would be the desire of the board.
And do you have proposal for those designations?
I'm sorry, for those individuals?
Right.
I do not have a proposal. I see that Mr. Turkington has joined us. He may have a couple of comments, but I think those are yet to be determined. Perhaps if this format is agreed to, I think the individuals are yet to be determined unless the board would prefer to designate a member of Selectmen here this evening.
Okay, Mr. Turkington, do you want to come up for a minute and just if there's anything in particular you can add about what's, the responsibilities are? I know, we have a model to go by, so.
Sure. Eric Turkington, Precinct 1, Chairman of the Water Quality Committee. As you all know, we've been attacking all 15 of the town's estuaries and seeing what we could do about them. The one that we share with another town is Wacoit Bay, which is severely impacted, but it's not all us. A lot of it is coming from Mashpee and Barnstable. So this model that they use in Papaneset Bay to get the three towns together and to look scientifically at the impacts, where they're coming from, and allocating them, it worked real well in Papaneset Bay. All three towns did get together with the lineup sort of like this one, and they came to a consensus as to what each town's responsibility would be. And we're hoping we can do that in Wacoit Bay.
So essentially, there's some science involved, so you track the, the contributions of the problem, and then there's a, kind of a monetary or a measurement, really, of that allocation going forward. And these are the folks who are going to help work that out.
Exactly.
They're all. Is there anyone from the board who's interested now? I don't know if there's a way to move this.
I would take an interest in that. I've been following the wastewater issue forever, so I think I could handle that.
Mr. Suso, if we have a member interested, can we get through this right now?
Certainly.
Is there anyone on the board that would like to nominate Mr.?
Is the first step to approve the idea of it being the 3 members from Falmouth?
Correct.
Yep.
So I would move that we have the 3 members be a Board of Selectmen, the town manager as designee, and a appointment from the Water Quality Management Committee as our representatives to this intermunicipal.
Great.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would move that our appointment from the Board of Selectmen be Doug Brown.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote for myself?
Yes, you can.
All right. All done in one day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, we have just enough time here. The special event recommendation, the beach concert fundraiser for Recovery Without Walls, Old Silver Beach, Wednesday, July 25th, 2018. We've had the background, and we're just...
I move
go ahead.
approval.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. I see Mr. Ament is here already. Mr. Ament, you're Rose Corp., right? Okay, I guess we can call. We've got 2 minutes by the time you get up here. So I'm going to read the public hearing notice. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Rose M. Corp., doing business as Sopranos Casino by the Sea, has applied for a transfer of ownership of an all-alcoholic common victualler license located at 286 Grand Avenue, Falmouth. Application has also been made for an entertainment license. A hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. on the above application. The publication date is Friday, March 23rd, 2018. This was in the Falmouth Enterprise. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bob Ament, a Falmouth attorney, and I represent the applicant for a transfer of a liquor license, the common victuals license, and the entertainment license that's presently held by Casino Restaurant LLC for the property at 286 Grand Avenue. This is Casino FX, the Messina property. The principal of the proposed transferee, Rose M. Corp., is Edmund Ricciardi, who is here to my right and is well known to you. He's operated the Raw Bar in Falmouth since 2008. He's operated Sopranos Restaurant in Mashpee since 2004 and has really a lifetime of restaurant experience in Falmouth. His proposal is to create a restaurant modeled after Sopranos in Mashpee. He'll start off with the same menu. I have a copy. If you haven't had dinner, you wouldn't want me to show it to you. You get too hungry. You have letters in your file in support, I would say strong support of this application from the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce in Mashpee. Also a letter from the Town Manager of Mashpee commenting about the success of Sopranos and the absence of any problems there. Mr. Ricciardi has entered into a 5-year lease with the estate of Francis X. Messina. Mr. Messina, who, as you know, developed the property about a dozen years ago. He died last year. The family's entered into a 5-year lease with an option to extend for another 5 years. Substantial interior improvements are being made, financed by Martha's Vineyard Savings Bank, which is behind Eddie's operation. 25 employees or so are poised to begin work as soon as possible. That is staff for the restaurant. And he hopes it will become a improvement to the community.
Great. Are there any questions, Doug?
Just to point out that on the application, you specifically did not ask for a Sunday entertainment license. There's only Monday to Saturday, and if that's something different, you need to make sure you also have a Sunday entertainment license.
Well, that's right. There are no changes being proposed at all. This is simply a transfer of the existing licenses, so any changes to it would have to come later.
Okay. It's a completely different application, I'm sure you all already know, but every time it doesn't say Sunday, I'd like to point out to the applicant, you've already sort of ruled that out until you get that done.
Any questions from?
No, I just, do you anticipate being able to be open year-round?
Yes, we are going to be open year-round.
Sir, just for the at-home
Yeah, I'm sorry, you have
audience,
to go
would
to
you
the
mind
microphone.
coming to the podium?
Good evening. And to answer your question, we are going to be open year-round, and dinner and weddings and everything else we have planned already.
And you are the Mr. Ricciardi that was so nicely introduced by Mr. Ahmed,
Yes,
right?
I am. Same fellow.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And what do you expect your timetable for opening to be?
I'm hoping the 25th, because our first event is May 5th.
So April 25th?
Great.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that.
You've got a lot of great letters of support, and apparently you're going to do a great job.
I would move approval of the transfer of alcohol, common victual license, and the entertainment
I
license.
think we might have to take comment, right?
Oh, we have to close the
Yeah.
hearing, and you're right.
Yep, so you can,
I move to
well,
close
let
the
me,
hearing.
well,
Move
let
to
me
see-
ask if there's, I just want to ask the audience if there's anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none. Is there anyone here who would like to speak against this application?
I move we close the hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move approval of the transfer of license.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, we look forward to
Appreciate
it.
it.
Okay, we have a few minutes before the next hearing, so we'll go to,
Sign variance, maybe? Is that
let's
easy?
see. Is there a presentation on the field, Mr. Suso? We're going to move to business number one.
No, we don't have a formal presentation. Madam Chair, I wanted to double check and make sure that you approved the special event
We did.
as
Yes.
well. Okay.
Yep, we did.
That's all set then.
Yep, moving quickly.
Yep.
And
No formal presentation. We had some comments at your last regular meeting regarding the all-purpose field.
okay, so now we have to vote a position by the Board of Selectmen on the April 2018 town meeting, Article 18, high school all-purpose field. What did that number come out to, Mr. Suso?
3.1 million.
And what's the operation of that? Is that going to be a debt exclusion eventually, or what's the
Correct.
process?
That's anticipated to be a debt exclusion. The Finance Committee last, I believe it was Thursday night, voted to recommend the $3.1 million as presented to them.
For a turf,
An
artificial field.
all-purpose synthetic turf field at the high school.
And I was the one who had asked that we have this discussion. Just I would like for us to be able to, at town meeting, be able to say that we either are in support of the recommendation of the Finance Committee and of the school committee's request, or state however we feel about it. I sort of felt we had told everyone a year ago that if this came back to us, we would take a position on it. I would very strongly encourage us to support the recommendation of both the school committee, the task force that was looking at the fields, and the Finance Committee, and hope that we can be unanimous in our support for this.
Well, I attended the presentation at the Morse Pond School with the turf field comparison analysis, and I was strongly in favor of it then, and I attended the Recreation Committee meeting last week, and they are very strongly in favor of it. And some of the sports programs leaders, there was a guy there from baseball, and another guy who runs the soccer program, and another guy with the football program, all three were strongly in favor and cited the need for it, and frankly, the embarrassment that when they go to other towns, what they have and we don't have. So, I mean, we're just way behind without having at least one turf field. We should probably have the 3, like the Gale report said.
That's exactly right. I was going to bring up the Gale report, because the school committee has done, a really exhaustive amount of public outreach, I thought, and I attended the school committee's meeting with respect to the vote, and it was, but for one, it was unanimous to move that forward. So,
yeah, I just want to thank Doug for putting it back on, the radar where it should be, and that we did say that when we had this conversation last year. I think we were really clear that we would do whatever we could do, and so I think it's really appropriate, while it's generally something that Finance Committee, decides and votes on to approve or not. I just want to, kudos to Doug for bringing it back, because I do think it's kind of a special thing that we had given our word on, and that I think we need to take a position on. So if that's Doug's motion, then I would second it.
I would move that we do what we can to voice our strong support for the recommendations.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. And one last note, they did do a lot of research on these fields, and they've chosen a infill, which is, although it's rubber, it's EPDM, which is virgin rubber, not the recycled tire parts. And the recycled tires is what is the most concerning, I think, because it creates a dust, whereas the EPDM is more granular.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah.
Good to publicize as well. And what goes along with that, next on the item for business is to approve the debt exclusion ballot vote on the high school all-purpose field for May 2018 municipal election.
I would move approval. I mean, if that's, we've got numbers now, and we know which way it's gonna go as a debt exclusion.
Exactly. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
The only question I did have is that
Discussion?
this still has to go to town meeting for their vote. I guess it is a question we can still put on the ballot, even if town meeting votes against it, but then the money just can't be expended.
Correct. We would put this on the ballot, but if town meeting declines to approve it, you can always withdraw.
Right, okay.
So you have the opportunity to do that.
Great, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.
Thank you.
Next, we have to vote an appointment for Falmouth representative to the Cape Cod Commission, Charlie McCaffrey, sorry, is here in the audience. Charlie, if you would step up. So just quickly, I know you've been on Cape Cod Commission, and what do you think about re-upping? The recommendation from Cape Cod Commission is that that's what the board follows.
Okay. I thought I'd mention a few things that I've observed and over the period I've been on the Cape Cod Commission. There was only one major issue directly affecting Falmouth that came before the commission. That was the Marriott Hotel at Lantern Lane and Main Street. We are all familiar with that project history. One important lesson, and there are many, to take from that is that while nearly the whole town understood that the development as proposed was inappropriate in design and scale, the Cape Cod Commission staff initially recommended approval because they found it consistent with our zoning for the area. Although the stated purpose of the relevant zoning district indicates that the proposed development was inappropriate, there were not adequate standards, in the opinion of the Cape Cod Commission staff, to implement the vision implied by the purpose of the zoning district. This is still the case. So we have, I think, some work as a town to do on that. Another major interaction between the town and the Cape Cod Commission was the Davis Straits study. This was a visionary proposal for the long term that I believe the Planning Board has embraced. It is the type of approach that the town needs to consider for the long-term economic and environmental health of the town. Growth and change that is town-directed and reflects the value of the community. I know you're all familiar with that proposal. There are several initiatives of the Cape Cod Commission that the town hasn't participated in, which I think should be considered. The Cape Cod Commission has a regional land use vision. The majority of towns have participated by indicating very general land use, open space, development, natural areas, et cetera, community centers. So the Cape Cod publishes a map, but Falmouth is blank. And also, at some point, we might want to consider the opportunity for growth incentive zone. There's one for Hyannis, where different standards would apply that are appropriate to areas of the Cape that there is consensus that development and change is appropriate, and it would reduce somewhat the role of the Cape Cod Commission in development decisions where there's consensus about the direction of development. The Cape Cod Commission, in their regulatory process, in review, does exact mitigation fees. And since the beginning, over $1 million has been given or is available to the town. $700,000 plus has been spent, and as of last fall, there was another $290,000 available. For the most part, these are on transportation projects, but they've also been available for open space and water resources. The results of the Cape Cod Commission study of coastal resilience and hazards, funded with nearly $800,000 from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, is an important study and one of only 4 nationally that were funded by the federal government. That will be very important for use by the town in determining the appropriateness of various techniques ranging from retreat or relocation to shore hardening to address coastal resilience. So we'll want to make good use of that, and as I speak now as chair of the Coastal Resiliency Committee. The town has received significant assistance from the Cape Cod Commission, and the Commission has more to offer. I suggest that the new town planner meet early with the Commission to understand the services that they provide. Finally, the Cape Cod Commission is updating their regional policy plan, which is the basis for their regulatory decision and setting priorities. An important direction of the proposed revised, well, it isn't even proposed yet, but it's under revision, is increasing in appropriate locations housing choices. This is an important issue for this town as well as for the whole Cape. The dominance, and they believe they found that 85% of housing on the Cape is a single-family house on a single lot. We need greater choices for all demographics and all income levels in housing, both for economic and for social purposes. So that's my brief comments on my experience with the Cape Cod Commission.
Well, I appreciate that you wove in some recommendations in your report. It's very important, and I just want to ask the town manager to work with the town planner, Mr. McCartney's Charlie McCaffrey, assuming he's reappointed, for maybe a May agenda with respect to getting on the map he discussed, or ways that we could benefit by interacting even more. I know we already do a lot with the Cape Cod Commission, but just fine-tuning that with our new planner.
Certainly.
Is there?
I would move that we reappoint Charlie McCaffrey to a 3-year term beginning April 25th, 2018 and running until April 24th, 2021.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
And
you.
you have something for us?
Well, I just have a copy of my remarks.
Very appreciated. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Appreciate your efforts.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for that. I got one.
Okay.
Okay, next we have back to public hearing. It's with respect to approving an application for transfer of a wine and malt common victular license for Martha's East LLC, DBA Martha's, at 281 Main Street in Falmouth. I'll read the hearing notice. Notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Martha's Eats LLC, DBA Martha's, has applied for a transfer of ownership of a wine and malt common victular license located at 281 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass. Application has also been made for an entertainment license A hearing will be held in the Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, at 7:40 PM on the above application, and the publication date was Friday, March 23rd, 2018, in the Falmouth Enterprise. Is there someone from the applicant here now? Hi, welcome. Please step up. Hi, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Martha Dupuy Olney. My family has been residents of Falmouth for 3 generations, and I've just recently moved back from Baltimore, where I was in the employ of Compass Group, the world's largest food service provider. I was there operating about a $3.5 million food service operation in downtown Baltimore, and have recently purchased what used to be the Parkside Market at 281 Main Street. They had a full liquor license, and I'm applying for wine and beer and an entertainment license. I plan to operate the restaurant very similarly to how it has been operated, primarily breakfast and lunch, with summer evenings, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, live music, just singer-songwriter, guy with a guitar kind of thing, from 4 to 7 p.m. with beer and wine. I have no interest in operating a bar, just trying to keep it simple, low-key, just a nice family restaurant for people to enjoy Falmouth.
Great. Questions?
Just a question that the entertainment is listed on Sunday from 8 to 2. Is that okay? It's on the same application?
That may be a mistake. I was only applying for weekdays, not Sundays.
I think it's just that's the hours of operation of the restaurant.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the entertainment says just Thursday through Saturday.
Correct.
Okay, excuse me.
The only thing in our packet, we don't have the malt liquor license
Right.
in our packet. It will need to be signed also for approval.
I move approval?
Let me just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We're
Trying to move so
we
fast
are,
here
we are
tonight.
moving. Any other questions first? No? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak against this application?
Move we close the hearing?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Thank you.
I move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome to the new business.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have on the agenda, interview, appoint, and vote members to the Charter Review Committee.
Madam Chair, could I interject one item?
Please. Perfect
Speaking
time.
with town council, he just indicated that, presuming that the board concludes your work tonight to appoint 7 members to this important committee, there needs to be a designation of who's going to convene the first meeting, and it just suggested that you authorize town council to do so as part of this process as well.
Great.
That makes sense.
So town council would just be a temporary chair for purpose of calling that first meeting alone.
Great, but that doesn't, that will be the 8th person, but that doesn't matter.
He serves as ex
Correct,
officio.
yeah, he's ex
He does?
officio.
Okay.
I
Correct.
believe.
Yes.
All right, I also want to mention Mark Finneran is an applicant, and he sent a note. He was unable to attend, just had a family issue come up at the last minute.
Okay.
He was #1 under our applicant list, so I guess we're going to move right around and call the next person, which is Charles Rader. Are you here? Yes. Actually, the microphone would be great. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Charles Rader, and I am, in fact, an applicant for the Charter Review Committee.
And why do you want to volunteer to be on this important committee?
Well, first of all, I have, in the past, served on charter review committees, and I think I'm good at it. The first one that I did was when I
was living in Concord, and Middlesex County had a charter review process at the same time that Barnstable County did. Middlesex County was by no means as well run as Barnstable was, and eventually was abolished, but we spent 2 years working on a proposed charter. We finished getting a proposed charter, but since we didn't use one of the canned charters in the authorizing legislation, it had to be dealt with, approved or disapproved by the legislature before it could be put on the ballot. And that was in 1988 when the legislature went on recess during the presidential election. And so, in a sense, nothing came of that, except it taught me a great deal about the process. We moved to my wife and I moved to the Cape, the town of Chatham, when I got to be 66 years old. And in the town, when the time came to renew its charter, I thought, well, maybe this is a way I can help. And I was appointed to the charter committee. We spent almost 2 years looking at the charter and revising it, and I think we accomplished a great deal. So I feel pretty good about my ability to serve, and I'd like the opportunity to serve this town.
Are you retired, sir?
I love to answer that question. No, I am not retired, but I'm on extremely limited part-time, and I mostly work for the interest of what I'm doing rather than to support myself.
When you worked to support yourself, what was the work?
I was and am an electronics engineer with a specialty in the area of digital signal processing. You all know that field, whether you know it or not, because it's sort of in everything now. But at the time that I started, I was one of the originators of the field. And
questions from other members?
No, I mean, the resume is really extensive, and then to have served on 2 charter reviews is really helpful to have that experience. So.
And other experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move. The next is Dan Shear.
Oh, good evening.
Welcome, Dan.
I will start by saying, 2 months ago or more, someplace in there, I had a problem that I went through the charter, and I brought to Sue's attention, and she said, well, we're going to review the charter. Why don't you apply for it? And I said, okay, I will. I read it a couple of times more, and there is some tweaking that should be done. I'm not saying there's a great lot of stuff, but and I know quite a bit about the town. This will be my 50th town meeting as a town meeting member. Coming up. I was in the finance committee, and I've been on, I don't know how, I filled out this and I couldn't remember how many committees I've been on.
That's when you know you've done a lot.
So anyway, that is my idea. I have no major changes that I would recommend from reading it, but I'm sure we'll find some.
Great.
And do you have any questions?
Yes, anyone from the board have questions? I don't want to steal, your thunder, but just in case you're appointed and things do change for, proper credit, what's the first thing, I'm just curious, you found that should be changed?
I'd prefer not to say.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, to me, it-
Doesn't
it-
crumble to authority. Let's
No,
just-
no, it is something that I'm not decided if I'm right or wrong. And
Wait a minute.
which happens sometimes. Usually, I damn well don't know if I'm right or wrong. I mean, I shouldn't be here tonight because I have pneumonia.
Oh,
Or,
gosh.
I am not contagious at the moment. This is my 4th week in it, and I'm still not doing anything that I'd like to do.
Well, it's nice to see you. Appreciate your interest in this, and I think otherwise everybody knows what they need to know. Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have David Garrison. Welcome, Mr. Garrison. Hi, what makes you interested in this committee?
Good evening. I'm Dave Garrison. Thank you. I appreciate your consideration of my application. Well, I've spent a long career working in and around local government, mostly from the Washington side of things. Urban policy has been my area of expertise and interest. I have a law degree and as well, which sharpens that up. I worked for the National League of Cities and U.S. Conference of Mayors for 4 years in the early 70s, helping in the design of the Community Development Block Grant Program, specializing in housing with 4 years at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, 12 years in Cleveland working with local governments in and around the Cleveland area. I chair the Cleveland Heights Planning Committee for a while. I spent the last 6 years of my career in Washington working at Brookings on urban policy issues in the Washington, D.C. area. So this has been a lifelong area of interest for me. I was raised in Massachusetts. We have a place in Wellfleet. We've been here in Falmouth now for 4 years. I'm on the Falmouth Housing Trust and looking for other ways to serve the community, and this seemed like an opportunity to make a useful contribution.
That's great. Doug?
Tell us how you feel about town meeting as a form of government.
Well, I have a certain fondness for it, which may sound a little bizarre. My father was a selectman in Lincoln, where I was raised, and I used to go to town meeting on a regular basis. It was a much smaller town, obviously, than Falmouth, but if you can believe it, my wife and I actually watched the town meetings on the community television system.
We get top ratings, so I can believe it.
Oh, yes, right, right.
Not as good as our ratings here, but.
Right. So it's part of as far as I'm concerned, part and parcel of the process and understanding how that entity functions in the town's governance system is fundamental to understanding how the town works. So it does have its peculiarities, but then all of the town meetings do. So.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Have you had a chance to review the charter?
Yes, I read it through, and I also read the state statutes that are behind it. So yes, I have taken a look at it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. The Southview Way, is that near the shooting range?
Yes, indeed, within earshot, I think I should say.
Did you participate in any of those proceedings?
Yes, we're one of the families that have signed the, indicated that we're part of the group of people who are concerned about the noise issue. So yes, we were.
And is there anything about that issue that motivated you to apply with respect to the Charter Review Committee?
No, not in the least. It hadn't even occurred to me.
Any other questions? No? Thank
Great.
you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your interest.
I don't see Pam.
Okay, let's skip ahead. Ms. Fenwick? Welcome. Thanks for applying. Why did you?
I was going to say, I've been there, done that.
Right.
But that always implies that you don't want to do it again. And so I'd say that I enjoyed my time on, I was on a member of the Charter Review Committee for number 3. And I like big projects, and that one turned out to be bigger than I expected. It was, however, a really good group of people that were on that committee, and that sort of spurred my idea of pursuing this for a second time.
Great. Specific questions?
We're very
No, I
familiar
know
with
Judy pretty well.
Ms.
She's
Fenwick's
going
work.
to do a great job.
I'm impressed that you know the history of the charter reviews as well. Thank you for applying. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, that was way too easy.
That was a quick interview.
Well, you know what, the great thing is everyone really did do what was asked, which was, attach a resume and give back. So we got so much background information that you sometimes don't get when people apply, which is, there's no such thing.
Thank you.
Great. Peter Clark, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Peter Clark. I'm an applicant for the Charter Review Committee. I know you're going to ask me why. Shall I just launch into one?
Please, please.
There are several reasons. One is I think I support our town form of government. I like the representative town meeting. I think it's a wonderful instrument for a structured way for people to speak about issues. But I think all systems have strengths and weaknesses and can be improved. So this is an opportunity to look at it and see whether changes can be made. That's important. I think I can separate issues of our system of government from the people who hold the offices, and I think that's important to do. I think I can separate how the system works from the immediate problems that are moving through that. So I think that's important distinctions to make as we look at changes that might improve the system. So those are the main reasons. My daughter is in graduate school studying community development, and she's looking at what the forces are that create the institutions in communities. So I think she'd be proud of my getting to know it. I know that parts of the town very well. As you know, I was in the school system for 33 years, on the CPC, a housing commissioner. I'm in town meeting. There are parts of government I don't know quite so well, and so I'm excited about working with people who will explore those. I'd like to express a question or ask you a question.
Please.
I went on the website and called the phone number for the Charter Review Committee. It's listed. And I got a nice, happy, helpful voice of Michael Palmer on the end of the line. How is the support given to this committee? I would hope, I assume there's a paid secretarial staff, is there? I hope the Board of Selectmen and Town Manager will make it a priority for their departments and committees to speak to this committee. I assume that's all in place. Is that correct?
Well, we'll be as specific as we can right now, but I'm sure it'll be modeled on past charter reviews. And beyond that, Mr. Suso, I'll ask for your information as of the moment.
Certainly, yeah.
Because I think we directed the town manager to put a line item in this year's operating budget to make sure that we had funds for the administrative support. So I know that that's in place already.
Yeah, we have the appropriate level of support in place and to come to do the job properly and support this important initiative.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just also want to say that you're absolutely right. This board has made it a priority. We've been very much looking forward to this charter review. It gives us kind of a touchstone for what our strategic plan is and where we should be going, and obviously the fact that you, as you suggest, you'll be making extensive investigations, and that's going to be very, very helpful information. Any particular questions for Dr. Clark?
No, I thought those are great reasons for wanting to get into it. So.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Great questions.
I just had a question, not for any of the folks who are being interviewed, but why is it that we did it, excuse me, is it because the charter doesn't allow, and I profess my ignorance for this piece of it, but it would seem that the town clerk should be a member of the charter review.
I thought for
the way that the
institutional
town council is ex officio, it almost seems like it makes sense for our town clerk because of that continuity, because it's a, because all of the other members are folks who are volunteering their time and may or may not keep notes like Ms. Fenwick, you know, that continuity there, and I know town council can provide that role to some extent, but he sort of provides a different role for that process. So it just struck me as an interesting that it wasn't part of that makeup, that he was a sort of default member in some capacity. But
I don't think the town clerk's actually mentioned it all in the town charter. It is not within the charter position.
Right.
It is actually a very different position than others. I think there's some people in the audience who want to weigh there.
Michael Palmer wasn't.
You have to come to the microphone, sorry, for the folks
he
at
was
home.
he was a member, but I think he had to be voted in. I mean, he's an applicant again this time.
Okay. So, yes, he was a full
Right.
member, voting member, the last for Charter Review 3. I spoke with him about whether he was going to be applying this time around, and he said he felt it would be just as appropriate for him to be a resource person. He'd come to some of the meetings, but not all the interviews. And one other thing I didn't get a chance to mention when I was up here before, there were 2 members from the League of Women Voters who served on the Charter Review number 3. And I know that one of the other applicants, plus myself, are also League members. But in tandem with the work that the Charter Review Committee did, the League of Women Voters went right alongside and sent us almost every month a matrix of the things we were talking about versus things that they knew that they thought would be of interest to look at. So they were a voice of reason, not sitting on the committee, but they're very much part of the community. So their assistance, I would hope, would also happen this time around.
That's great.
It also does raise an interesting point that the Charter Review Committee is a open meeting committee. And the minutes have to be recorded, the agendas have to be posted, and anybody can go to these committee meetings. I know that some other people have been, even when they weren't on the Charter Review Committee, they still attended these meetings, and so they are open to anyone to attend.
Great, appreciate that. Charlie McCaffrey.
Looks really familiar.
Charlie McCaffrey, Precinct 5. My whole professional career, for the most part, has been working with local governments. One of the things I learned, though most of that was in New York, but local governments are very similar even when they're quite different. And one of the things I learned in working with local government during my career is that, like people, they have personalities. They're all different in some ways. There's a culture. And I understand and respect that. I also have been working in Falmouth on many committees of the town. I'm a town meeting member. I've participated in many nonprofit committees, so I have a good understanding of how the town works or seems to work. I am favorable towards the representative town meeting as an actually one of the best forms of local government I've come across in my experience. But it's important to understand the details and constantly reevaluate the details of how the town works. So I wanted to get a better understanding of the organization of town, and I think I can contribute to that from my experience in various substantive committees.
Thank you. Great point. Any questions? Nope, you're all set. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Next, we have Flannery Duravage Rogers. Welcome. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Flannery Rogers. Well, I don't think I have quite the experience that my fellow applicants have, to say. I'm pretty impressed and humbled. But I'm really interested in local government. It's why I moved back to Falmouth 6 years ago or so. It's why I got involved in town meeting. And the Town Charter Review Committee sounds like a really interesting and really important way to sort of get more familiar and to have a chance to talk to other people in town and hear what they have to think about it.
And do you, have you had a chance to take a look, and do you have, a particular interest off the bat?
In the charter? I haven't taken a look at the charter, yeah. Yeah, I don't have any, I don't think I really know quite enough yet about how all the pieces work together to have any real opinions on it. You know, I think it's really interesting, and I think it's interesting too the timeline of how things have been amended and when. I'd like to hear more actually from Judy about that. I've spoken a bit with Catherine Bumpus, who was on the committee last time around, and Susan Shepard, so they've given me some sort of their experience.
So you know that process, or at least had a chance to take a look at it.
At least had a chance to look at it, yeah.
Great. Questions? Thank you. Or Doug?
No,
All set?
I think I'm
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have Carter Hunt. Welcome.
After that astounding group of candidates, I think I'd withdraw. Seriously, I'm interested in the process only from looking at being in the town of West Boylston as the moderator, also on the Finance Committee, and then moving to Falmouth and becoming part of the town meeting. It's an interesting dynamic in the way New England runs its communities. And I think that the charter review process is an outstanding event in that it gives everybody a chance to look at and modernize, if you will, if no other reason, to look at some of the ways things are done and to turn them into newer and more up-to-date operations. And so that was the interest I had in putting forth my application. Following the lawyer, the electronics technician, the woman who's been here since God made rocks, and Mr. Shearer, I'm not sure, and the superintendent, I'm not sure I'm as qualified as all of those folks to participate.
Well, we'll be the ones to decide that. Thank you.
Well, that's what they put you there for.
For the humility. Any questions from the board?
Just,
Please.
it's not clear that, have you reviewed the charter?
Yes, I've read the charter, looked at as it stood when the request came to put names in.
All right, then. Thank you.
Well, thank you for applying. The next couple of applicants, I mentioned Mark Finneran was unable to be here. Pamela Harding Barrett.
I just want folks to know that's what I was trying to get in touch with Miss Barrett. I wasn't not listening to folks, but I haven't heard back
Kids weren't
from her.
acting up.
Yeah, well, they do act. They are act. The kids are acting up, but we'll ignore them.
We also have Michael Palmer and Mary Pat Flynn. So my first question is to the board, do we have enough information tonight to talk about our, making some appointments? It's 7 members we're looking for out of 12.
So I don't want to put anything off because I think we want to get it going, but I am slightly intrigued by what Judy tells us about our town clerk, because clearly I think he brings an enormous, resource to the undertaking. And I guess my question is, I don't know if town manager knows whether or not there is a way for him to be a resource or be in this, in other words, we have a really wonderful pool of applicants.
Right.
And if there's a way for our town clerk to be involved in the process, I don't want to shortchange him and he's not here tonight, but I'm assume putting this application in that he's looking for us to take a vote. So I guess I'd like to just have as diverse of a pool, to have a really full committee. So if he's able to participate in a way,
If
you see what
I
I'm
could
saying?
speak,
Yeah.
my concern about that is, I think the, mechanics of the charter review are really, could be bogged down without, having him, in other words, if we think he's important to the process, I think we need to vote him as a member, because then he's committed to being there the whole time, as opposed to, well, gee, I wish he was here, and he wasn't there during the meeting and didn't hear this, and people have to remember to consult him. I just think that might be a burden or slowing the process. I appreciate the value of the thought, but I don't know.
I think with the other members of the committee, I don't see that as important. I just think we're going to have some people who've been involved before, likely, and who are going to keep the process going. I think to have him available as a resource, as we are all going to be available to this committee as resources, I think will be sufficient. And I'm glad that he was involved in it last time. I think every now and then to have the clerk involved, but I don't think it's as important. I don't feel as
Not imperative in your view.
Yeah. I feel like we could make a recommendation that we could get 7 people tonight without having to delay the process.
Okay. Would anyone like to start?
I would move that we put Judy Fenwick on this committee.
Second?
All those in favor of Judy?
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to move Peter Clark.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Megan, Doug, do you want to?
I'm sorry, I'm just catching up with you guys.
I would recommend David Garrison.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-1. Carries.
I would recommend Flannery Rogers.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 carries. I'm going to recommend Pam Harding Barrett.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries.
I'm in for that, too.
I'm sorry, that was a yes?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, a little
louder.
Sorry, a little late. I didn't have her on my list, but
All right, let's
I'll
just
agree.
recap for the
Yeah,
moment.
it's going a little fast here.
We have Judy Fenwick.
Yep.
We have Peter Clark.
Yep.
We have Flannery Rogers.
Yep. With David Garrison.
David Garrison.
Pam Barrett.
Pam Harding Barrett. That's 5.
Okay.
I would move that we add Dan Shearer to the list.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan Shear. I'm going to move Carter Hunt. Is there a second?
I would second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 2, 3,
Went very
4,
quickly.
5, 6, 7. Wow, that was quick. Congratulations, all. I think that's it. Other than Mr. Suso, you wanted us to also appoint town council as to start the process to convene the meeting
Just to
essentially as chair?
confirm that town council would convene the first meeting as acting chair, just for the purpose of beginning the process.
And he's
then-
ex officio anyway.
Correct.
So I move we authorize the town council to be the acting chair of this committee.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I hope that all the other applicants who didn't get appointed come. These meetings are open. We have a lot of folks here who I think can add a lot to the discussion who've gone through this experience in other places. And so that will really, I think, enrich the experience, and we'll have a better product at the end.
And our gratitude for everyone who applied and for everyone who's appointed. This is an extremely important committee that, very serious process. And as certainly on behalf of the board, we're very, very interested in helping you as much as possible. Mr. Johnson-Staub?
I just didn't know if the board wanted to consider also appointing the town clerk ex officio.
That was what I was getting at. If there's
Right.
something that doesn't prohibit us from doing, that was my point. If our town council is ex officio, I really feel like it makes sense for the other town employee, who this is really his purview in many ways, to be appointed as ex officio.
Best of both worlds. Thanks for
So I would move
highlighting that.
Michael Palmer appointed as ex officio.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Really great idea. Thanks, Megan.
Madam
Well,
Chair,
it's Peter.
And thanks.
may I just confirm the town council will be acting chair only for that first meeting?
Yes. Right.
He has no desire to continue or be designated chair permanently, so I just want to make that
Since he
clear.
left, after our executive, let's appoint him permanently. That's what happens.
Got it.
The first item on the agenda will be to appoint a chair. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our sincere gratitude.
Great, thank you.
Would you step to the podium for a second, since you have a lot of institutional history? Because my first thought in that is, well,
No, you just have a good memory of
What
what
in
she
the
means.
past? What in the past was the timeline?
I think it's next April's town meeting is when we'd like to have.
Yeah, I think we began meetings in September, but I think the appointment was in March or April, so I'm not sure. Is summer a difficult time to kick off something like this?
I think if it's possible to get started right away, and if
July 4th.
The timetable we were looking for is that the article would come back to next April's town meeting for any
Ballot.
revision, so then it could go on the May ballot.
Okay,
And so that's sort of the ultimate timetable to be working for.
okay.
But
Thank you.
we'll start coordinating as soon as possible. Thank you
Okay,
all.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a sign variance request for an on-premise freestanding sign at 460 Wacoit Highway.
Is that the one that was requested to be?
I've got to catch up here.
That one's deferred.
Yeah, that one.
That was deferred, okay.
Request of the applicant.
Right? The next item on the agenda is a request for a sign variance off-premise promotional sign for Gosnold for National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day.
Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item on the agenda is to approve a request for waiver of a special event permit fee for Sunday worship, Surf Drive Beach, John Wesley United Methodist Church, and Rebecca did send a note. She has a prior commitment this evening, but it's essentially request for status quo of what was done in the great work of last summer.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Should we just say, that- so that will be that she pays the first and last day, and then 75% reduction on the others?
Yes, that's.
Well stated,
Yep.
and I'll take that as a second.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Next, we have to approve a request for waiver of a special event permit fee, Falmouth Farmers Market, Marina Park.
I would move approval.
I always just have to take a second to,
Are you suggesting that the arrangement be the same thing for the $500 be in kind for
Taking care.
the garden at the
Right.
harbor? I just wasn't sure if we'd heard from the harbor master that that actually happened to the way that they wanted it to or not.
Mr. Sousa, do you have any knowledge on that?
I don't. I received no information on that.
Let's see, when,
well, I mean, I think we could move approval with that
caveat.
and we can just make sure if it didn't happen that we emphasize to them
Right.
it needs to.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so who's moving?
I moved it and.
And we'll take
Second.
Doug as the second, so all those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Great.
Okay, next we have the final review of the 2018-19 town manager goals. Mr. Suso, great write-up here. Would you mind doing the
Thank you.
summary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my redraft, as I call it, of the the voted goals by the board. That goes back to February 26th at your regular meeting. Since there was some tweaking organizationally, this is my best understanding of where the board intended to be. But I felt, given the lengthy list we started out with and some adjustments, that I should bring it back to the board. So having done so for this meeting.
That's much appreciated, by the way, that fine-tuning is important. Do you want to, kind of just call off a couple of the specifics?
I'll be happy to walk through 1 through 6, Madam Chair. if that's
Please.
Helpful. One is pursue implementation of community development group as part of the town staff organization. That includes the use of a group leader to coordinate the efforts of multiple town departments and the associated regulatory boards and committees to better manage the town's changing development and housing needs. Included in this initiative is the pursuit of a streamlined permitting process to include electronic permitting where feasible. Number two is implement a formal town employee performance evaluation system, town employee performance evaluation system to provide feedback on the quality of work and the setting of goals for continuous improvement. Item number three, goal number three, continue to evaluate the town staff organization and facilities to identify opportunities for improved service quality and efficiency, using this as the basis to develop a master organization and facilities plan. Goal number four, analyze and evaluate fire department staffing requirements for emergency response purposes, pursuing the implementation of the most cost-efficient management approaches given the existing patterns of service demands. An element of this is the review of potential alternatives for fire station locations for most effective service delivery, including consideration for the merging of stations to optimize the utilization of existing resources. Goal number five, work with the Water Quality Management Committee, regional organizations, and town staff to develop a cost-effective approach to treat and dispose of the town's wastewater, which minimizes the impact on the natural environment, supports growth in business and housing opportunities, and assures long-term sustainability of the town's natural resources. And finally, goal number 6, coordinate staff and citizen efforts to develop an approach and plan for managing the town's resiliency to coastal storms and sea level rise to minimize future impacts to citizen housing, to town facilities and infrastructure, and to economic vitality. And that is the list.
Madam Chair?
Please.
I just want to say that I from the really broad list that we started with, I just think that the process of kind of going through and improving these and honing these, it strikes me that we have, this list of 6 goals that really touch on, very specific, as looking at the fire department, to really broader, trying to figure out how we're going to adapt and deal with, climate change and issues like coastal resiliency. We have improvements that are on the side of really customer service, that you would call it, for folks coming into the town. So I think that, this list, I really appreciate that. I think it just strikes the right balance for what town government should be concerned with, both in the broader, looking forward and dealing with very big challenges, to kind of the smaller, direct services. So I just really appreciate that, the work that went into just coming to this list. I think it's a well-balanced list for what the focus should be for the coming year.
Very well said. Any other comments?
I can give you credit for taking on that fire department issue. That's a big challenge, and it's good to make that a clear priority.
Yeah, great.
If it's appropriate, I would move approval of the town manager goals for 2018, 2019.
Great. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have some on number 6 on the coastal resiliency. I do have assigned one of my algebra classes at school to look into the efficiency and effectiveness of putting railway cars off of Surf Drive Beach. They've done this in Virginia and Delaware, and
really?
It's one of their math projects.
So will they run models or something?
Yeah, they're going to do some mathematical models and the mathematics and the finances of it, and see how deep they need to go to build. But it's done, and there's some great photos that they've already shown me of these subway cars put off the beach and how deep they go and the effect it can have. It's an out there idea, but
how many years do you get out of a subway car?
Well, it builds its own reef. It starts that way.
It accumulates around it.
And actually, the biggest problem they have right now is the fishing is huge around these cars, and that the lines from the commercial and everyday fishermen are getting tangled in the subway cars and with each other, because the fish just absolutely come right to the reef. But
wow,
interesting.
Great.
So has some information.
Really, really great project.
So, Mr. Suso, you can touch base with his math class and get some recommendations.
Well, I certainly hope you achieve the goal. Thank you.
Good.
We look forward to it. Thanks very much.
Terrific. Okay, next, we're going to announce our Board of Selectmen's second quarter 2018 meeting schedule, which is always fun to try to predict the future. Let's see here.
So currently our meetings are scheduled through April. Is that
correct?
Correct. Okay.
And we will have meetings Monday and Tuesday next week. Well,
yes.
Really, shortly.
Yes.
If not Wednesday also.
Hopefully not.
Okay, so, yep, so we've got town, it'll be the 9th and 10th, as Doug just mentioned. And then Patriots Day is the 16th, and we have the 23rd all scheduled. So that brings us to May 7th, and let's see, and then the 14th, well, here we go.
Assume you want to go 7th and the 21st.
7th and 21st, yes.
I will just tell you, just for the record, I probably won't be here on May 7th. But.
Okay.
So the 7th and the 21st?
Okay,
right?
so on the agenda that day, we'll have appointments for chairs of really tough jobs.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, then there's Memorial Day, and then we're in June, so it would be the 4th and the 18th, likely. And then we're into July, the 2nd being Independence Day
We generally
week.
tried to avoid right before the 4th of July.
So we'll go the
Follow that
9th,
pattern, 9th and the 23rd.
9th and 23rd.
And what did we say? I'm sorry, I was writing
The
down.
4th and the 18th for June.
Yep.
And I didn't even get May. What did we do in May?
May, we
May
are
was-
doing the 7th and the 21st.
Okay, right. 6.
And then for July, we have 9th and 23rd.
Would it make any sense to try to figure out when we might want to do our summer retreat on strategic planning? Or do you think we should wait on that?
I was going to wait on that because we will also probably have a joint board meeting coming up as well, so,
And maybe a new makeup of the board anyway.
okay, correct.
We'll get you a proposal on that shortly. That
And
we
July
being-
is 9th and
We being
23rd.
Selectmen Brown and I.
Good, thank you, exactly.
9th
And
and
then that
23rd.
leaves us, let's see, August 6th and 20th, if we're following the pattern.
And that's running the string out.
That's right.
Okay, hold on a sec.
And July was 9th and 23rd.
Oh, hi, Mark, hope all's well.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all good with the schedule? Any other concerns or things we might have missed? What do you think, Megan?
No, I'm just double checking.
Okay. In that case, we'll
Would you want to have a motion approving that?
approve the
Move
schedule.
approval of that
Thank you.
schedule.
Yep.
Okay.
A second? Doug, second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Suso.
Thank you.
Next, we have individual selectmen's reports. I just want to mention, I think this week, mentioning we talked about the town manager goals. I think this week is also Fire Safety Week, I think I saw on Facebook. So just important to keep aware. And then in terms of, I just wanted to also mention, in terms of my report, having the school committee meeting that I attended, in addition to doing the vote for the turf field, also appointed the new superintendent. So it was just want to commend the school department on a terrific process and
Timely process.
timely, very focused outreach, hard work, and to welcome the new superintendent, Mr. Susi. Do you happen to know the new the start time? And it's Lori. I'm blanking on the last name.
I believe it's the beginning of the next fiscal year is what I
It would be.
understood.
I don't know if there's
July
any,
1.
no summertime or whatever.
I'm not sure the
Okay.
details of that. I think they're still working out the details of the employment agreement. I
Great.
suspect that'll be included with that.
So we'll look for more news on that. Any other selectmen's reports, Doug?
Had an interesting meeting with Mayor Mitchell in New Bedford to learn about his vision for his waterfront. And he pointed out that they have a very active and successful waterfront, and they have a port authority, which he believes is the strongest port authority in Massachusetts. The only other one is in Boston, and it's more of a volunteer kind of a group rather than a real port authority. So he was explaining to me that the State Pier being positioned where it is, right near their downtown and their vital area, if you take a walk through that part of town, it's really nice. They got some artwork and it's really come back really nicely. And he feels strongly that that State Pier location is more of lends itself to like a mixed use and a redevelopment area, which they've sort of drawn on a map and targeted. So he's not really inclined to encourage freight only through the State Pier. And interestingly, he pointed out that the city is trying to develop what they call the North Pier for freight traffic. And they're applying for a TIGER grant, which is acronym for Transportation Infrastructure Economic Redevelopment. And they were not successful last year with the grant. The TIGER fund had $500 million last year. This year it's going to have $1.5 billion, so they're expecting a better chance to get funds. And what they said was they hope that the Steamship Authority and the town of Falmouth would partner in, if we really want to see freight go to New Bedford, that we would partner with them and help maybe even with some seed money towards the grant, because grants are often funded more quickly when there's other money that's contributed.
Partnering, sure.
So,
and also maybe the vineyard, I know the vineyard was kind of interested in.
Yeah, and so it was interesting to learn that, so I did have a meeting with Betsy Gladfelder and explained that to her, what we're finding out, just keeping her posted as to, just, we're just learning and sharing information as we go along, so.
Interesting.
And I also, as I mentioned earlier, I attended the Recreation Committee meeting, and they're excited to have the either the Sandwich Road fields worked on or Trotting Park. Well, they're both slated, but right now Sandwich Road is the first. Remember, we appropriated money to redo the field, so it's a combination effort with the DPW and a subcontractor that I guess DPW is going to help with trucking out the fill of the field removal, and they're hoping that they can salvage the irrigation system, and I guess that will be determining factor of whether or not they do the Sandwich Road field or go to Trotting Park. Is there some last-minute decisions to be made there?
The information I have is that we believe the irrigation systems are in decent shape, and we should have sufficient funds to do both fields. And that leaves a contingency, even if there was some money required for some irrigation system improvements. I think there's about a $25,000 flex within the budget to allow for that. So last I heard, we were fairly confident we could do both of those fields.
And an interesting discussion arose from the fact that the adjacent ball field, the baseball field, one of the coaches was there who actually works in the construction field as a machine operator, excavation operator, and he was saying that the field, that infield never drains, and he has got an offer from an engineering firm to donate their time to do some coring samples to make sure of what kind of fill is under there. And the football coach mentioned a similar concern on the other field, that even if it rains one day, it might not drain for a few days.
On Sandwich Road.
Yeah, the Sandwich Road fields.
Yeah.
So they're just raising questions as to whether or not the strip out was sufficient, when they did the original fields. So just a heads up for, when they're working on that if they need to go deeper, how would we adjust that? If we find that when they strip out the topsoil, there's still unsuitable material, will we go further, or will we have to stop and rethink?
We do have an allocation for some drainage work as part of this project, so I'm hesitant to say, because I think it depends on exactly what they find.
Right.
If what they find is that we need to remove a massive amount of fill that wasn't anticipated, there could be an issue there. But
right.
But my understanding is that, again, part of the process and part of the budget allows for a look at the soils and a look at the drainage to make sure that everything is up to snuff before we invest in putting the turf out.
Right. Do you know whether or not they're planning on doing coring before they do the work? Or?
I hadn't heard specifically discussion of coring.
Okay.
So, the way to, what I'd like to do is to connect that person, the engineer who was volunteering to do that coring, connect them to Peter McConerty or Jim McLaughlin in the engineering office.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks.
Great, Megan?
No, I guess I just attended a career day that VIPS puts on at Morse Pond, and it just so happened that it was mostly town employees. So we had Sergeant Cummings from the police department, Lieutenant Bartos from the fire department, Vice Principal St. Julian from the high school, and then a woman who's a physician's assistant. But it was really great. One of those really fabulous activities that VIPS does, for the sixth graders who had, great questions about, they were really interested in tasers and,
oh boy.
and if Sergeant Cummings had been tased. But they had great questions also about, just starting them thinking about different careers. And it was a wide variety, all the way from, working in fire and rescue and kind of being able to do that, after a fairly short period of time in terms of training and being able to kind of move up the ranks. So it was a great opportunity to be in the schools, and just a good program put on by VIPS. And I know they did it they did one at Lawrence School, and they have similar things that go on at the high school. So great job by Tracy Crago and the other folks who work for VIPS. So.
Great town employees, everyone was volunteering and,
yes.
and giving to the schools. That's a great opportunity. Doug?
Nothing to report. I just wanted to hear from other people who'd been to precinct meetings because I hadn't been to any this week, as to how things have gone so far At the precinct meetings.
Well, we had a lot of questions about the stretch code implementation from the audience at the East Falmouth Precinct 4 and 7. And there was a representative from the Energy Committee there to answer questions, and I, as a builder, chimed in a little bit because I have some knowledge of it. And we're having a meeting tomorrow to discuss, whether or not we've got all our ducks in a row for town meeting, and it sounds like we do, so.
Great.
Because their meetings tomorrow night is
4 and 5?
8 and 9.
8 and 9, rather.
At the Jewish Congregational Church.
Yep.
That Megan will be
Yeah, that's-
definitely there.
Yeah.
It's
I
you
might
and
be
me,
there as
but,
well.
I mean-
You two are,
Yep.
Do you,
we'll
I mean, it is my
coordinate.
precinct. I saw you put a note that you wanted to go to it, but
Yeah.
It's, if, then you
No,
two-
we'll go. No, we'll go.
Right.
And we have them all covered now. And then we
Right.
have precinct 3 is the following night on the 4th,
Yep.
right? And then.
That's mine, and then there's 4 and
4.
1 and 2 is also on the 4th.
1 and 2 is also on
Right.
the 4th.
And that's here.
Yeah,
Well,
And I'll come to that because I think you're going to be at precinct.
exactly, yeah,
and I'll go
And
to
then-
3 with you also, probably.
exactly.
Right.
See you then.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, any other selectmen's report? Town manager?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was pleased to attend the Coastal Resiliency Action Committee meeting on this past Tuesday afternoon. Had an excellent follow-up discussion on the previous Saturday's completed resiliency workshop, which was, an excellent, really an excellent forum to kick off that process. I also attended the Precinct 4, Precinct 7 pre-town meeting, precinct meetings we just spoke about, and look forward to attending follow-up precinct meetings this week. I was also joined by a colleague, Peter Johnson-Staub, for a weather-delayed second meeting of the Accessory Apartment Bylaw Working Group this past Wednesday evening. Good progress continues to be made in that regard, and we plan to meet again at the end of April. And as the board's aware, work continues on multiple fronts, a variety of activities, including in anticipation of the upcoming April town meeting, which begins a week from tonight. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Johnson-Staub, anything to add? Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by Meganet Communications. Meganet offers a wide array of internet services, including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their #1 goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.